Last-minute locker room buzz just collided with front office math. And the ripple hits a name no one expected tonight. Rui Hachimura is suddenly the pivot point of the Lakers' fall plan. And the temperature around his spot is rising fast. Here's what I'm going to deliver for you. In this report, the rotation signals I'm seeing right now around the forward spots. The real cap mechanics that are boxing the Lakers into uncomfortable choices. The on-court case for and against Hachimura in this system. The credible pathways the organization could take in the next few weeks, and only quando for a dramatic payoff. The bold scenario that's been floated inside league circles that would shock this fanbase. Buckle in, I'm taking you from the court to the spreadsheet to the heartbeat of this locker room. Step by step, clean and direct. I'll set the stage. It's preseason week. Everyone is hunting for rhythm. And the Lakers board is juggling 3 clocks at once. LeBron James' early season health window. Anthony Davis usage and wear and tear management. And the new CBA's unforgiving second apron world that punishes hesitation. Rui Hachimura, 27, slotted as a first-unit forward last season and known for that smooth catch-and-shoot profile, returns to the floor tonight against Dallas after sitting yesterday. That's a small detail with a big undertone. Evaluation windows are shrinking. And these minutes are going to be audited like an end-of-quarter possession. The basketball argument for Rui is classic and, honestly, strong. He gives me a clean release in the corners, a mid-post safety valve when the offense stalls, and a body that holds up at both forward spots. On good nights, he stretches the floor just enough to keep Davis free from crowded paint touches. He's calm, he's coachable, and he has learned when to cut off LeBron's drives without clogging the nail. If you remember his best stretches, those runs came when the team simplified his reads. Spot, cut, rip through, rise. Nothing noisy, just winning geometry. But this is where the reality of 2025 cap law hits. The Lakers, like every star-heavy roster, are dancing with apron lines that erase flexibility. When you creep too high, tools disappear. No mid-level relief, almost no aggregation leverage in trades, and draft pick penalties that handcuff your future. That's why the front office keeps staring at mid-tier salary slots and asking a cruel question. Which contract unlocks moves? And which contract locks us out of them? Rui sits in that exact tier more than a minimum, less than a max. Just expensive enough to matter, and just movable enough to make calls about. That's not personal. That's the architecture of modern roster building. From a rotation lens, I'm tracking 3 pressure points around him. First, the staff has leaned harder in the 5-out spacing and higher tempo second units. That style demands forwards who either guard in space at an above-average clip or bomb threes at volume. Rui's profile is efficiency over volume, comfort over chaos. Second, the coaching voice has emphasized stackable lineups where every player offers either elite connective passing or elite point-of-attack defense. Rui's passing is tidy but conservative. His defense is physical, but not always laterally explosive. Third, the growth mandate for younger wings is louder. Those developmental minutes don't come out of thin air. They come from somewhere, and somewhere usually has a name fans love. Now, if you're thinking, why rush any decision when LeBron is managing sciatica and the team needs front court depth? You're right about the short term. With James expected to miss time early, Hachimura's usage should spike. That's why tonight's return matters. The short term, however, doesn't erase the medium term. The medium term is where the second apron bear trap sits. Keep this snapshot in mind. One pathway has Rui absorbing big minutes while LeBron ramps. Another pathway, less comfortable, uses Rui's salary slot to pry open a trade exception or to help step under punitive thresholds so a bigger swing is legal later. Those are 2 different worlds with the same calendar. Let me be fair to the player. Rui earned genuine trust in the playoffs 2 springs ago with poised scoring and long-arm contests at the rim. He fixed the corner 3 accuracy that used to wobble and turned it into a reliable shot. He doesn't hijack possessions. When LeBron or AD wave him into action, he flows. That's real value. But the counter-argument, what execs whisper when they pull up synergy clips, is consistency against quick second spectrum wings. In switching heavy schemes, the demand is not hold up for 3 dribbles. It's hold up, deter the pass, and turn defense into a sprint the other way. That's where the staff keeps testing combinations with Jared Vanderbilt's pressure, Austin Reeves' connective reads, and hyperactive second unit groups that can survive 2 empty trips because they create 2 live ball turnovers in return. That the money layer sits underneath all of this. Rui's deal lives in that neighborhood where contenders make hard choices. Not a bargain bin filler, not an untouchable pillar and in-between lever. If the Lakers decide they need access to specific trade mechanisms or want to avoid a late-season gridlock on roster tools, that lever is in reach. And as I always say here on the channel, levers get pulled not because the player's bad, but because the rulebook forces binary options. So what are the routes on the board? Route 1 is the most boring, and that's usually the most likely in October. Ride the early months. Let Rui soak minutes while LeBron recovers. Reassess in December when market clarity improves. Route 2 is the surgical trade package. Rui with draft sweeteners or prospects to return a per. Versatile two-way wing who can scale up shot volume and guard primary. Scores in May. The problem is that the league taxes those. Swaps teams demand picks for wings who do a little bit of everything. Route 3 is the hybrid cap play. Find a third team that eats salary now to grant the Lakers breathing room later. Every contender calls this the jigsaw month for a reason. There's also the human layer. Rui is not allowed personality. He's a pro. When he's told to start, he starts. When he's told to anchor bench units, he does it. And LeBron and AD appreciate guys who don't hunt spotlight minutes. The locker room doesn't want drama. But veterans know the math, and they can feel when an office is testing emergency exits. When minutes get shaved randomly, when closing groups skip a guy who usually stands in the weak side slot, when communication narrows to "we'll let you know," players sense it. That's why this next 10-day stretch matters for. Rui's standing more than most fans think. Let me get back to the court because basketball drives everything. On my board, Rui's best Laker version has 3 requirements. 1. Crisp early clock threes on slot kickouts. No hesitation. Make defenses pay for loading to a D and horn sets. 2. Stop and hold containment for 2 full beats on switches, then funnel to help don't overchase. 3. Proactive cutting when LeBron's on the floor and ruthless, offensive glass attacks when he isn't. If Rui gives the staff those 3 boxes consistently, the conversation tilts back in his favor fast. That's how simple the margin is at this level. Now, you heard me build the context with discipline. You've heard the rotation logic, the cap logic, the human logic. Here's the late night, high stakes. Are they really considering this? Bomb that's been whispered. The nuclear option model on the Lakers. Whiteboard involves moving off Rui Hachimura's slot, not just via trade, by outright cutting ties if trade doors jam shut. Using cap mechanisms to stretch the hit and reclaim flexibility before the real marketplace opens up. Yes, I'm talking about a wave and restructure path that would effectively be a demisal in soccer terms, a hard break that almost never happens to rotation-level players on contending rosters. It's not the plan. It's the emergency glass. But I'm telling you, it exists as a discussed scenario. And it's closer to the table edge than people think. Let me underline this with the seriousness it deserves. This is speculation, rooted in the logic of the rules and the signals I've described. Not an announcement and not a certainty. If the staff sees Rui crush these next reps, if he stabilizes the second unit shot diet, if his defensive tape grades out better against small actions, that break glass option goes back into the cabinet. If the opposite happens and the cap squeeze tightens while trade partners play hardball, the emergency lever gets a longer look. That's the truth of it. If the organization actually chose that path, Here's how the dominoes would fall. The depth chart would tilt towards smaller, switchier lineups. The team would shop for minimum forwards who run the floor and live on chaos plays. Davis would see even more five-out lanes, and the staff would double down on kinetic rotations that ask guards to rebound like forwards. The front office would immediately redirect the saved flexibility into a mid-season swing, either a bigger ball handler who soaks usage while LeBron ramps, or an elastic 3-and-D wing who eats 28 minutes without touches. It would be a bet on pace, length, and democratized defense. And yes, there would be emotion. Fans grew to like Rui's calm. They like knowing what shot is coming from that left short corner. They like the sense that not every possession needs to be a roller coaster. If you pull that, you better replace it with something that looks like energy and proof of concept. That's why the coaching staff has to be surgical with messaging if this escalates. Players need to feel a plan, not a panic. Before I close, I want to be equally clear about something else. There's a very plausible, professional outcome where the Lakers simply hold Rui, feature him early while LeBron manages his timeline, and revisit the entire cap chessboard when the market loosens. Contenders do that all the time. Nothing about this rumor erases the value Rui can provide right now. It just illuminates the cost of keeping every door open later. Here's my personal read, concise and on the record for this channel. If Rui Hachimura hits threes on volume and shows sharper feet in space over the next 4 to 6 games, he solidifies his chair. If he doesn't, and if the front office keeps getting stonewalled on clean trades while the apron math stays ugly, the emergency scenario I outlined moves from theoretical to active discussion. That's the line. That's how tight the margins are in this era. Now it's your turn before I sign off. How do you feel about this potential move and the direction it signals for the season? Would you accept a bold cut if it meant unlocking a bigger mid-season play? Or do you see Rui's stability as essential while LeBron works back? Drop your thoughts below. I'm reading every single take. And your perspective honestly shapes the next video. Final analysis. Short and direct. Rui Hachimura stands at the intersection of basketball fit and cap. Reality, his immediate performance will either protect his role or push the Lakers toward an extreme. Flexibility play that few expected this early. If you value fast, straight-to-the-point breakdowns like this, tap in with the channel now, subscribe, hit the alerts, and stay with me for real-time updates and deep dives when the Lakers make their next move. I'll be here the second something shifts.